This video is designed for new users of DezignWorks for Autodesk Inventor, featuring the Faro Quantum with an 8-axis. We're assuming you've already been through the probing getting started and had a few hours of training. So we assume that you are familiar with creating alignments and using the probe. So now when we go to start scanning, we've already created an alignment, but we need to actually switch to the laser. So assume this is a new part with an alignment. You'll go up to the DezignWorks or the DezignWorks Scan tab, either one, and you'll go into the device calibration. The Getting Started video and the training with our team for probing talked about this in the very beginning. This is the Faro probe management. We're going to switch to the LLP in this case for the quantum. So take your mouse and select LLP, and we're assuming that you've had training from Faro and you know how to calibrate it. Normally this will be green. About every 30 days it'll turn red. It's not that it's not calibrated, it's telling you they'd like to have you calibrate every 30 days. Select Edit. We'll go over some of the settings. For normal parts, Automatic Normal works great. You can leave it on the movement filter selected and the reflection filter. You can leave it on scan 1:1 and scan density. Now to check to see how your laser is reacting with the material, grab the device, hold it over the part. You should see a solid line. If it's broken or you cannot see it, you may have to switch to the other types of algorithms. For example, there's fixed. If you use fixed, it's for a one color. You have to switch some settings. HDR is for more shiny parts. Again, in this case, on parts like this, it's painted. We're going to do normal. Down here, some boxes. This is all personal preference. I don't like the rangefinder on. I would suggest leaving rangefinder laser on so you can see it. In some cases, you might need the high precision if you're doing real intricate parts, and you could show the visible light. So again, this is all preference, but I would say at the least you want to have automatic normal. These should be left alone. 1:1's fine, the default, and rangefinder, and say save. Now what you'll notice is once you close this and move the device, this now was in probe mode. When you move the device, the readout's going to change and say laser probe. So in most cases, your part should be fixed. It should not move. In this case, we're going to show you in fixed mode and the Faro 8-axis table. So you'd select DezignWorks Scan, then select the scan. So DezignWorks was created to make your scanning very easy. Out of the box, the default triangle size is set to 30. It's a great area to start. Automatically show mesh preview and smooth mesh is on. View follow device is right now currently under construction. That's so it will follow what you're doing. There's an advanced options. Normally you can leave these alone. With the Faro, sometimes by default it's set to the middle. You might want to bump it up a little bit, but by default you really don't have to change anything. So at this point, we're ready to scan. So to go over this, triangle size. If your parts are about this size and no super small little radiuses and things, 30,000 will work good. But let's pretend this part is 10 feet long. We may want to bump up the triangle size to get a faster scan rate, and then we can adjust it as we go. So let's pretend this is like, say 10 feet long. This bumped us up to like maybe 80 thousandths or even 100. This allows you to scan faster, but the resolution of the mesh may be higher. So you might not see full detail, but we can talk about that, how to change the detail. So put in the amount you need. Now on the quantum, and most of the Faro devices, you've got a red and green button. And this is what the laser looks like on the HD with the Faro. To scan, you're going to see In this case, a blue line and red cross. Try to keep them somewhere close. And then once we scan, we can see it on the screen. We might have to zoom out a little bit. So again, as you can see here, that's just held on the stop. Get the two lines somewhat lined up. They can be off a little bit. Tap the green button to start scanning. Tap it to stop. So there is an active sound for the video. We're going to turn that off so it doesn't be annoying, but you'll probably want that on when you're working so you can hear what's going on, or you could turn down the volume. So I'm just going to stop for a second. If you want to know how to turn that down, go to DezignWorks options or turn it off, go to sounds. And we're going to say don't play a sound. We don't suggest you change this sound setting unless you really do not like that sound. If you do change it, make a short sound. It can't be something very long. It could slow down the process. We'll say save. We'll go back to the scan tab, and all this is remembered. Again, you're going to simply line up the blue and the red cross, tap the green button, and move along your scan. You don't really have to worry about backing up and overlapping. DezignWorks is set up so it automatically cleans up the mesh as you go over it. So this is about like spray painting. You're just going back and forth. To stop it, tap the green button. Now what we don't suggest is you start scanning back here and just go back and forth and never stop. If you know you're going to be scanning back in the back part of this, and you want to go to the front, hit the green button to stop for a second. Now what we're showing right now is fixed mode. So let's zoom out for a second. We'll zoom out for a second. This is in fixed mode, like you didn't have the rotary table. So again, if you're scanning, tap the green button, and you'll see it on the screen as well as here. You don't want to get real far ahead of it. You'll see how it's in focus. Tap the green button to stop. So that's like in fixed mode. Again, the part should not move unless you have the Faro 8-axis rotary table. So we're going to go ahead and unfix the table and show you this. This is a great tool to have if you have a Faro device. It's a rotary table. You can spin the part on here. It's very fast and efficient. You don't have to move around the part. So we're going to put the camera back up so you can see where we're working. Now we're going to assume that you've got an 8-axis. So the first part of the scanning was for those people who don't have an 8-axis. If you had an 8-axis, you do have to activate it. You go into the Faro management software and activate it. You would do this before you started. So with the 8-axis now, we can actually tap the button and actually spin the part. Works super great. So let's stop the video, the screen once and rotate it around. You can now see, you can, without moving around all the part, you just simply move the table. So I'm just moving the table with my hand and moving the arm with, simultaneously. Now as you're scanning, you want to make sure you'll see on the screen that pink color line, that you're not going way too fast. You'll know it when that happens. The line will be way out of sync. And if you want to stop turning it for a second, you could. Like here, this is to be rotated normal. So what's that sound? Let's tap the green button once. The sound means you're on a stop on the device. So there's times that you can pinch it. If that's the case, move away from it so it's not on the screen. Like here's what it looks like. Means you're on the stop. If you're on the stop, you can't hit any buttons. Get off the stop, tap the green button. So here we're going to relocate it. This is a signal line scanner, so you do have to be normal to your part. So I tap the green button and continue my scanning. It's really this easy. There's lots of horror stories out there, point clouds and all the cleanup We've eliminated that. So if I want to move to the back, I'd stop by hitting the green button. You could spin the table. So let's say you want to work on the back. We'll rotate it around the screen. We'll start scanning back here. Again, you're going to hold it normal to the part. I'll try to keep it in camera view most of the time. So there again, I'm on a stop. Just make sure you're off the stop. Like here on these vertical faces, hold it normal. You'll see how much better it'll scan. If it's not scanning, it means you're not quite normal to the part. So this part is about like 25 inches long, 10 to 12 inches wide. You can see how fast and efficient you can scan. So here's the area we missed, right in here. We'll just turn it. Again, hold the scanner normal to it, tap the green button. It's really this easy. Just continue scanning back and forth and looking to see where you miss. If you need to stop for a minute, tap the green button. Tap it to start. In most cases when you're scanning, you will not hit the red button. So let's take a look at our part. So you can see up front on the hood scoop, we weren't normal to it. So we're going to come back here, point normal to it, and scan. It'll get back in there. But the 8-axis is so handy, you can spin it where you want. I'll rotate on the screen. Again, there's areas that I have to be normal to. So we're going to mainly talk about maybe modeling up a little bit of the front of this. We have a whole nother video on how to model with this. This video is designed to teach you scanning. So these areas that we missed, we can turn the table, or if you don't have the rotary table, you have to move around it with the device. We'll get some of these areas. There's some undercuts down in here. So you can see how fast and efficient this really is. So to go back over this, number one, if you don't have the 8-axis, the part cannot move. We have tools for merging the meshes, which we'll talk about later. If you have the 8-axis, make sure it's engaged, and then you can rotate your part. If you have areas where it didn't pick up, normally it's either because of a color or reflection, or in this case, it's because we weren't normal to it. There's a cutout in here. Position your device over it. You can see on the screen the preview line with DezignWorks, or you'll see the preview line with the Faro. Make sure it's pointed normal, tap the green button, and start scanning. You sometimes just have to manipulate it back and forth to make sure you're normal to it. Small U-shaped cracks are the hardest to get with a single line scanner. We'll rotate this around a little bit. Right here you can see by this fender, we're not quite normal to it. We'll rotate it. Again, I'm in a bind there. It's just a stop and continue to scan. So after you scan for a little bit, you do want to save your laser data. The laser data is called a DZWL. So down here in the scan box, save DZWL. We recommend you give it a name, and for referencing, what was the triangle size? For example, we'll delete this off. That's just a date stamp. My first scan at 080. Because it's saved separately from the Inventor part model. Again, remember to occasionally save the DZW because you can load this. Now, we scanned this at a higher rate, so you can see in some areas it's a little washed out. We were assuming it was like a 10-foot long part. We wanted speed. So now that we've actually scanned it, when in default scan mode, it's scanning at a full rate. This is like turning down the resolution so you can go faster. We're going to put this down to what the default was, like at 30. In this case, we're in units of inch. We'll put in 0.030 and just tap somewhere on the screen with the left mouse. Notice on the right side, it's going to take and process this. DezignWorks uses it as a GPU, so it's really important you have a computer that has like 32 to 64 gig of RAM and a good graphics card with a minimum of 8 gig of RAM. So this is cleaning up. Notice it went from the small amount it was to 1.2 million triangles. Now you can see the definition on this is awesome. So over here it says mesh is current. Now you can work on it. While it says it's cleaning up, we don't recommend that you start moving it and going back through things. Now in some instances, when you actually turn down the scan density and make it a lot more dense, you may have to come back and rescan some areas. Like here, a few areas are missing. So we don't suggest you rescan the whole part at a low rate. Simply scan those areas. So in here we missed some areas. You don't have to worry about it remerging. DezignWorks does it for you. So all I did was tap the green button. Now you may have to go a little slower because the mesh is so big. Tap the green button. Here's the areas you missed. And again, like we said, we don't suggest you rescan the whole part at this. When you had it set to 80, scan most of the part. But there's times when you make it smaller that, you know, it doesn't actually get all of it. We'll rotate it around and look at it. There's some pieces on the other side we might want to get. So here's an area it didn't get very good. Remember, the key is holding this normal to it. Tap the green button. It'll fill it in. It'll merge all that in right with the other data. Again, we might have to hold it normal this way. And we fill it all in. So to review, you're going to open up the scan tab, and you're going to normally take defaults on small parts. If they're big parts, we change that to a bigger size. Occasionally, save the mesh. It's called DZWL. In this case, we've changed it. So we're going to say save DZWL. Now, a lot of times you can actually select the one you had before and then just slightly change maybe the triangle size. Again, we suggest you put that number in there so when you come back in a few days or 6 months, you know what rate you scanned it at. So occasionally, save your DZWL during the process. If you missed areas, come back and scan those areas at the smaller rate. Looks like we did a pretty good job. You're going to want to watch the next video called Getting Started with Pro Mesh or Modeling with the Laser. This video is intended mainly for teaching you how to use a laser, how to change from the probe to the laser, and how to work with the DZW laser settings. Your normal training for laser scanning with the Faro is 8 hours. We usually break that up into 1 to 2 hour sessions. For support, you can call our office or email us at support@designworks.com. We appreciate your business and have a great day.